I am not a big fan of horror movies. I don't like them, but I know they're very popular. When one comes along that is a hit at the box office, you can be sure there will be 4 or 5 sequels, at least, and all of them will do well and make money. Creating a good horror movie is a neat trick. You have to instill fear into someone who knows full well that what they're watching isn't real and can't hurt them. But we are all, at heart, scaredy cats. If you are walking alone in the dark and someone unexpectedly pops out and shouts boo, will it scare you? Startle you? Of course it will. And that's how the movie can operate on a naive imagination. That's how horror gets its hooks into you. Horror movies exist because we live in a horrible world. Everyone dies. That's horrible. Everyone, or many of us, grows old, and there's a kind of horror connected to that. We live on in part because we kill and eat each other, a horrible procedure, and there is a definite prescription against any animal, including the human, eating a human. Anytime that happens, we consider it especially horrible. Halloween is coming up, a holiday that gets bigger and scarier every year. Strictly in terms of money, it's becoming as big as Christmas. Halloween is all about death and fear. There's a sense of humor in it too, but the rock bottom of it is death and fear. There is a strong sense of fear connected to what we don't know, and we know nothing about death, the Grim Reaper, except, spoiler alert, that it will happen to everyone. Fear is the basis of horror, and we have every reason to be afraid. The world is a very fearful place. Let's start at the top. People talk about the fear of God, and if you read the Bible, which is the story of God and humanity, you will be very afraid of God, who does some very terrible things to make his point in history. History itself is a horrible record of war, plagues, natural disasters, and death. And, if you want, you can overlook history and simply concentrate on the present time, and there will be more than enough material to horrify you. Pick up a daily newspaper. It's full of truly horrifying accounts, so we have every good reason to be afraid, to be very afraid, to be mortally afraid, right down to our bones. There's been another school shooting. One shooter, lots of guns, and many people killed and wounded. A movie about this would be horrifying, and it is horrifying to think, to know, that we are helpless when it comes to this, that there is nothing we can do to prevent it from happening again and again. Suppose a mathematician was studying this and crunched some numbers and came up with a theorem that predicted when the next shooting would occur within, say, a window of 3 days, a slight degree of uncertainty. According to this mathematician, the shootings are connected. They are a part of a chain reaction, which means that once they have begun to happen, they become more likely. They, in effect, help to cause the next incident. It's a self-perpetuating phenomenon. Even though the killer dies in each case, there is a serial aspect to the shootings. There is something in certain people which will have a tendency to break down or snap when they hear about this, and will cause them to do the same, to heavily arm themselves, to go into an unsecured institution like an elementary school, and to start shooting. This mathematician takes his formula and his suspicions to an authority and makes a prediction, and he is right, give or take a day. Another shooting does occur. When word of this gets out, fear increases to panic and the social order breaks down. The day of the next predicted incident arrives and parents withdraw their children from school or don't go to church or work. Everyone stays home behind locked doors, and the killer shows up at a hospital or a nursing home, a grocery, maybe an apartment complex, and starts shooting, and the clock starts running on the next one. I don't like horror movies. I have no need of being more frightened than I already am.